You're watching WRKM Channel 22, number one in the region. Good evening. I'm Ralph Fuentes, this one in darkness. Now, normally we would begin this with this is for mature audiences only, but given tonight's topic, WRKM said, do what you want. Talk to the people. Even though the Northern Bones does not vote in this election, some of our other viewers do. And that is why tonight we will be discussing the election in a bit of a different way. Everyone has their own election special. I respect it. They go through the candidates, they go through the policies. That's fine. But what I'm more interested in is something a little different. What I'm interested in is the philosophies. Because the truth is, Republicans today aren't Republicans of the past. Same thing with Democrats of the past aren't Democrats of today. But there is two philosophies that have been fighting since the beginning of this country. And that is liberalism and conservatism. Though the name and the brand have changed over the years, those two things have not changed. They've always been here. And I find that to be interesting more than anything. I think this year, more than any other year, even more than 2016, even more than 2020, we are now having the full-out street fight of these ideas. And I would like to take a look at the history, or at least American history, in which these ideas have permeated and what they have affected. So, tonight we discuss the conservative liberal street fight on what we are now calling the last election special. On the off chance that there is an apocalypse and this is truly the last election, we would like to be the first ones to say we were there and we had the last special. Also, because we are probably airing this Monday night, which is the very last second in which one can air an election special. We are not here to change your vote. We are not here to change your mind, because quite frankly, we're recording this Sunday night for Monday. You've already made your choice. Something in the last minute, in the final hour, that's going to change your mind now. Unless, we held you at gunpoint, which we won't. We won't. Me and Bobby do not own guns yet. We have not practiced our Second Amendment rights yet. We are getting there. What are you shaking your head for? Do not shake your head. You will own a gun with me. And we will do recreational things with it. Almost spill my water on my laptop because maybe I'm lying. Maybe I'm thinking about overthrowing my own little situation. Who knows? That's a joke. FBI, it's a joke. That is a joke. I do not overthrow things. As we've mentioned, but my CIA pin had made it very clear that I can be bought. So let us start with the conservatives. Conservatives often prioritize maintaining established systems and are cautious about rapid or sweeping changes. The conservatives tend to view society as fragile, where drastic shifts might disrupt stability, dilute cherished values. They believe in change, while sometimes necessary, should be approached with caution to prevent unintended consequences. Seems logical enough. We all practice a level of conservatism in our lives. Walking down the street, you don't walk down a dangerous alley. Depending on if you're on a date with a hot chick and you're trying to find a place to make out, maybe you do walk down an alley. I don't know. I've made out in alleys before. Not proud of it. Don't know how I did it considering I have a rat phobia. But the girl was hot enough to make me forget. And maybe that is what is politics. If a hot girl is hot enough, you will throw away conservative values. But conservatives existed even before the country was founded. It existed when they were fighting to find out, will we be a country? The conservative idea at the time were the loyalists in the American Revolution. During the American Revolution, the loyalists were the conservatives. They were scared to go against the king. They were scared of the instability and the chaos of a new nation, which is ironic, considering all conservatives do now is tell you how they're ready for the next American Revolution and how they will die for this country if need be. But they always weren't going to. They weren't really into it because they knew chaos would ensue. And who's to blame them? If you break a society, you bought a society. Now you have to fix it. Now, I'm not saying I would have gone and bowed before the king, though some of them bastards did. And we dealt with them accordingly. I actually think we let some of them go. But they were very fine with nobility. Nobility created stability. Damn. Put that on a t-shirt. They were fine with the rich owning the land and only they having a say on things. They were comfortable. Why change anything? But that's what made them conservative. Because they were desperately afraid of change. And this isn't the only time conservatives in our country have been so afraid of change. Let's look at our boy Jerry Falwell and the fucking... Jerry Falwell is one of my favorites. He's one of my favorites. His son's one of my favorites too. And these two coined the moral majority. In response to cultural changes in the 1960s and 70s, civil rights, sexual revolution, anti-war movements, a wave of conservatives led by figures like Jerry Falwell and the moral majority pushed for a return of traditional family values. The movement emphasized Christian values, patriotism, and the nuclear family ideals. Aiming to resist the perceived moral degradation of society, they viewed these traditional values as essential for national stability and moral integrity. You see, even then, when faced with the sexual revolution, where lots of people were getting laid and making cool music and doing cool drugs and civil rights, even then they were like, wait a minute, let's not break things here. Let's chill out. These things seem interesting, but let's not get carried away with them. But I do find it very interesting that when it comes to sex, gender, and race, whenever anything goes well for any of that, they always bring out Christianity, which is quite interesting to me because Jesus would actually be in the demographic they would not let into the country. In fact, one would say he's quite liberal. In fact, one would say we would probably fund another government to assassinate him. That would have been the conservative standpoint, really, when it comes to Jesus. So it's very interesting that when any change in America occurs, good Christian values must be upheld. Now, some are saying, what government would have shot Jesus? I don't know. The Romans? The Romans? Listen, if America existed in the time of Rome, let's be honest, they'd be an ally of ours. We stole a whole bunch of shit from them, didn't we? But Jesus will save everything. Jesus will keep blacks in their place, will keep women in their place, and the gays away from your children, apparently, according to the moral majority. Which was funny because Jerry Falwell himself was caught doing some sexual stuff with some people. His son had to step down of being chairman of Liberty University because his wife was caught cucking him while he enjoyed watching it with a young protege of his. So conservatives are also kind of full of shit. I think that's where the fear comes from. They're so afraid of things changing because of their own temptations. They don't want to get caught out there. Don't tempt me with cool sex and the Beatles and drugs. I don't know what kind of person I'll become if I do those things. You'll become a much more fun person. That's what no one tells you. Doing drugs makes you fun. Now, not every drug makes you fun. Heroin does not make you fun. Does not. It makes you a problem to a lot of people. Coke will make you resourceful to people. Like just in the nick of time, there's Coke. Now the night can continue. Weed, everyone loves weed, so you'll always be beloved. Mushrooms is more of a once every few months kind of thing. You can't do it too often because then you no longer become interesting. You just get fried out. Acid's a one-time deal in my opinion because there's post-acid you and there's pre-acid you, and everyone's going to wonder what happened to pre-acid you because post-acid you isn't always interesting. That's a time where conservatism can come into play. I'm not ready to have my mind melted. Maybe I won't do acid, but I will smoke a little bit of weed. See, I've given conservatives some kind of props. This is not a biased podcast yet. Reaganomics. In the 1980s, as government programs expanded and conservative pushback emerged, advocating for lower taxes and reduction in government intervention. President Ronald Reagan's administration argued that a smaller government with lower taxes would allow for Americans more freedom and economic control. Rather than relying on large bureaucracies, this small government ethos emphasized, when you get the two E words together, tongue twister for a Puerto Rican. I mean, you just witnessed it. Ethos emphasized personal responsibility and viewed government intervention as disruptive for free markets. Now, freedom sounds great. Freedom sounds great. If it's freedom for me, it's freedom for you, it's freedom for Bobby, though I don't want Bobby to have freedom. That's kind of the thing. Like, Bobby's my intern still. He graduated college, but he's still an intern. And because WRKM doesn't pay me, I don't pay him. He's here for the love of the game. And that's what makes Bobby great. That's what makes us true patriots for WRKM. We do not get paid. I'm going to keep mentioning we do not get paid so people can respect the work we do here. We are real fucking patriots. Salute. The Donkenheims are not going to like that. But Reagan has a fair point. Why can't people be more in control of their economy, their economic decisions, their own personal? Why does the government have to get in the way? Well, the problem with that is you cut taxes on the rich because they're quote unquote job creators, but when it came to making those jobs happen, they never created them. In fact, they paid themselves for the jobs they had. It was kind of backwards. It was kind of backwards. And the inner city never got any of that money, and the money never trickled down. So in a way, that level of conservatism kind of locked in an American feudalism of capitalism. Just locked it down and maintained it so you couldn't go forward. I understand the concept of not wanting to move forward in the crazy new philosophies of a country and society because it's a lot of people you got to manage. You got to have a plan. You got to have some fiscal responsibility. The numbers have to add up. That's fine. That's fine. The problem I have with them is they also limit their scope of the future. They can only see what's in front of them but never years down the line. Some of their donors do, and it's why they give money to universities like George Mason University. I think his name was George Scaife, who gave money to George Mason University to start a libertarian economics program in which he paid students to take those classes. And then those guys became judges, lawyers, and economists, and then spread libertarian economics all across the country. So he definitely saw a future in which he could, maintain a conservative economic idea out there, which is what they say college does with liberals. So I don't know. Who did it first, the liberals or the conservatives? Chicken or the egg, I say. But ultimately, what conservatives come off as, instead of having visions of the future and thinking outside the box, is they get known as grumpy fucks. And who wants to hang out for grumpy fuck? Grumpy fucks are only fun when they're funny, as so few conservatives are. Nick DiPaolo's kind of funny. He kind of has jokes now still. I think so. The last special I saw was more him just yelling into a void. but it was still fun to watch them on Tough Crowd 10 years ago. Was that 10 years ago? No, I think it's actually maybe 12, 13. God, I miss Tough Crowd. But that is their ultimate problem. They live in the now, the material. They are super, super focused on stopping things from happening as opposed to letting things happen to see where they go. That's the conserves. But what about the libs, bruh? The liberal idea emphasizes change, progress, equality. Liberals often believe in challenging existing structures, norms to address inequalities to foster social improvement. Liberals advocate for reforms they feel will benefit more people, particularly those marginalized by the system. Sounds pretty dope. Sounds cool. Sounds a little utopian. Sounds like you got a lot of ideas. But do you have the plans, though? Do you have the goods? Can you back it up? Let's point out some times where they did back it up. The abolitionist movement, 1830s to 1860s, baby. We're going back in time. See, we did that. We gave the conservatives some little history. Now we're giving the libs some history. We're bringing it together. During the 19th century, a growing number of Americans opposed slavery, which they saw as a fundamental violation of human rights. The liberal perspective. Abolitionists believed that for society to progress, it had to confront and end slavery, even if it meant challenging the deeply entrenched social and economic systems of the time. And isn't that just the foundation of what we talk about now when it comes to DEI and critical race theory? Like, isn't it just really asking a fundamental question of, is the country doing what it's supposed to be doing? Is it actually doing the whole all men are created equal thing? And is it wrong to ask the question, is what I ask. You should be able to question your reality from time to time. You should be able to question the stability of your country. Questioning your reality in your country is fantastic. It's why I always tell people, once again, back to the drugs. If conservatives did more drugs, they'd question their reality more. They'd start asking some questions. Why am I such a prick? Why do I have such stick? Why do I have a stick up my ass? Things like that. I had an amazing experience challenging my reality once. I met a coyote, and the coyote told me that I was suffering from childhood trauma still. And that coyote guided me to a better place. Thank you, coyote. Thank you. Questioning your reality doesn't have to just be all doom and gloom. It could be a little fun. The abolitionists did it, and look how that worked out. They freed some slaves, helped spark the Civil War. And to be fair, without that coyote, there wouldn't be this podcast. So, you should thank them, or you should blame them. I don't even know if this coyote was real. It was a figment of my imagination. I think I manifested it into being by wanting it to exist. And it did. Is this a bad case for liberalism? It might be. But the New Deal, I don't think is. During the Great Depression, poverty and unemployment reached unprecedented levels. In response, FDR introduced the New Deal, a series of government programs aimed at economic recovery and social welfare. This, to me, makes sense. A society like ours should have a social safety net. Why not Social Security? Why not unemployment insurance? Why not free health care? Capitalism is a wild game. People are always rising and falling in America. We see it all the time. People have money, then next year they're bankrupt. They spent too much. They got too high off their own supply. Should we not have a safety net of sorts? Yes. We don't give them everything back. We don't give them their millions of dollars back and just let them do what they want and keep buying them toys. No. They now have to come accustomed to the safety net. Here's the bare minimum you can have. Go back out there. Try it again. But this is where I also think conservatives have a little bit of a point here, though. Because while the New Deal is great, and it was a fantastic concept, who had to pay for that? People. We had to pay for that. Our taxes paid for the New Deal. They pay for Social Security. They'll pay for universal basic income. They'll pay for free healthcare. But maybe what it really comes down to isn't so much how much taxes we're paying, but how those taxes are being used, which to me is a point where liberals and conservatives can come together. Maybe we should have a choice in what we put our taxes to. Every 4 years, I got to vote for president. Every 4 years, give me a catalog. What are the programs my taxes going to? Let me check some boxes off. I want it here. I want it there. Now I'm voting twice. And now politicians have to make those programs more attractive to me, because now I'm not just voting with my vote, voting with my dollar, the all important dollar. Taxes. So I can see a little bit of a middle ground here between the two parties. But of course, a lot of these ideas are very utopian. And for the most part, it all comes down to, we'll tax more of the rich. And granted, while I would like that idea, it doesn't seem to be pretty popular. And rich people have a lot of money, so they can buy a lot of influence. So I don't know how much longer we can keep going with that as a tactic. Doesn't seem to work often. But I think this tax catalog thing could work. If you make it an app, it'd be better. I don't really want the booklet. Make it an app, and I can just beep, 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 boop. I'll spend a night flipping through stuff. I can go on an app. Done. I feel better already about paying taxes if in this hypothetical situation. There are people watching right now who are going to steal this idea. All I ask is that when you steal this idea, it would mean a lot to me if you fit my name in there somewhere. It'd mean a lot to my mom if you did. So you can say my son created a brand new tax system that a lot of people will hate, but hey, my kid did something, all right? And I think that would be very important for my family, have my name on the tax system. Why not? Why not me? Einstein used to work at the post office. I'm in retail. I can't have genius ideas. No? All right. Fuck you guys then. The civil rights movement. By the mid-20th century, segregation and racial discrimination were still legally enforced in many parts of the U.S. The Civil Rights Act, led by figures like Martin Luther King, sought an end to these injustices. Civil rights activists argued that true equality required dismantling discriminatory laws, practices, and even if it meant overturning long-standing social structures, they called for systemic change to protect the rights of all Americans. Now, this one has gotten weird recently because now people are starting to argue that the civil rights movement was a bad move, apparently, or at least James Lindsay is arguing that often, where apparently we actually benefited for being oppressed because we made Black Wall Street. And Black Wall Street would have never happened if blacks were treated equally to whites. Which, granted, we did make Black Wall Street, but because of segregation, Black Wall Street was also carpet bombed by the Ku Klux Klan. So it's they bombed the living shit out of Tulsa. It wasn't like it was going perfectly fine and it just magically fell apart one day. No, because of the very laws we were fighting against. So when people give me that revisions on the civil rights movement, I'm very much perplexed. What people also don't know is that prohibition was also partly a race issue, because it wasn't just people going, alcohol is destroying the modern day man, look all this crime around it. There were several black breweries that were on the come up. Huge black breweries that were making at least what we the millions of dollars of their time. Huge money. But some of the racists in the prohibition movement were using that as a, look at these blacks, they found a way to make money. We got to outlaw it because they find a way to make money. They're equal to us and we can't have that. A little bit of a history lesson. Ken Burns said it, so you know it's right. He does really good research. But liberals are always playing the long game. And it's why they lose so often. And it's infuriating for liberals because it's like, God damn it. Like, we know we're spiritually right. We know where society is going to get to. But the problem is, we often live in the dream a little bit. Like, we have some ideas that have some concrete elements, but they're not really put together well. We don't know how to explain our dreams and fantasies in a way that's palatable to the everyday American. So conservatives can hit us with it every time they want. Then there's also the notion that liberals flip-flop, and I don't really look at it that way. When you're playing the long game and you're fighting for dreams, you will come across times where the dreams don't work, or the plan for the dream doesn't work, and you have to make a pivot. That's the flip-flop. We have to make a pivot. This wasn't working, so we got to try another way. But we want to do it that way. Well, that wasn't working, so we got to go this way. And it's how we get ourselves into compromises. And it's how we end up spending a long time working on something to get a real bastardized version of it, but we get it somehow, and it's not the best version of it, but it's something. And I know that's so frustrating for a lot of far left people to hear, but it's the game. It's kind of the problem with the long game. We all do the long game. Sometimes we're playing the long game with this show. Someone will watch it eventually. We're close to 100 episodes. Something has to give. So if a liberal wants to sponsor this show or have it run on government money, we are open to that as well. But both of these philosophies have a place in America. They've always had a place in America. They've been battling each other since its founding. Let's talk about the Federalist and Anti-Federalist. Didn't think you'd hear the fucking word Federalist on this podcast, did you? After the Revolutionary War, the newly independent states needed a framework for governing. The Constitution was proposed to create a strong federal government, but it sparked debates amongst the Federalists and Anti-Federalists. Federalists, aligned with a more progressive view for the time, advocated for a strong central government to ensure stability and order. In contrast, the Anti-Federalists feared tyranny, pushed for states' rights, and maintained local control. And this, to me, is where we're at, always. The conservatives have a point here. We just beat one king. Do you want to anoint another all-powerful king? You have to leave it up to territories a little bit so the communities decide how they want to live. If the Quakers want to do what the Quakers want to do, then they shouldn't be stuck doing what the Christians want to do. You get what I mean here? Like, you got to be able to live in your community and do what's best for your community. But there are times where your community is not moving at the same pace as the rest of the country, and a big government does have to come in to ensure that you're keeping up with the times. There are moments where this happened, such as the civil rights movement. And I feel like this is kind of, to me, a core argument in this country. Because if you look at the idea of anti-federalism, federalism, and just the philosophies, we're always swinging from that pendulum. Small government, big government. When the small communities won't do what they need to get done, the big government comes in and takes it over. When the government gets too big and starts overspending, the small communities start fighting back. This is the game. It's an annoying game, but it's a game. And sometimes someone's got to lose for the other one to win. And sometimes the other one's right. Can't fight that. I mean, let's look at the civil rights legislation, right? Liberals argue that the federal government should intervene to protect civil rights and prioritize equality and social progress. Conservatives in the South viewed this as federal overreach, advocating for more localized control. But let's be honest, right? All these southern states were close to 100 years after the Civil War was over, still segregating blacks, still treating them as second-class citizens. At what point does the federal government, in the most absolute of all good faiths, should expect that these southern governments were ever gonna make black people as equal to white people in like the next 100 years? They weren't. They knew what the game was. If you still weren't going to make these people equal, then fuck it. We're gonna come in and tell you this is over with. These black kids gonna go to this school. There's no fucking segregated fountains or bathrooms. Everyone's fucking equal up in here. That's it. We're done. We're not playing this game anymore. It's an old outdated philosophy. The big government had to come in and do it. And I don't think anyone with a fucking brain would argue against that, because racism is stupid. Though some of us still out there are still a little racist, aren't we? And we're voting for a particular party, aren't we? But that's a case of big government intervention. Even in the best good faith argument, the southern states were never going to make those people equal. They were going to fight it tooth and nail, and you sometimes have to override communities that are not doing right by your American citizens. That's it. That's a liberal standpoint that works. Then there was Obamacare, which I would like for us to not name things after people anymore, like Romney Care, Obamacare, Trump Care. Like it's a buzzword thing, and no one actually knows what the actual rules are, and it's kind of frustrating in that respect because it's tied to a guy, people automatically don't like it. But who's to say it's a bad idea? Obamacare wasn't a bad idea. You let people stay on insurance long enough to get their own. 26, a lot of kids are living at home these days because of the economy. You give them time to figure some shit out, and then their parents kick them out, as they should. But you give a kid time to figure out what his situation is. He's probably just got out of college, probably spent massive money on his master's. Kids gotta be insured, baby. That's the game. Now, what are some amendments you could have made to make it stronger? Like, hey, like, the insurance companies still need a little bit of a kickback in certain situations. So you have to give it. It's a give a little bit to get a lot situation. So over time, conservatives chopped it down a bit. Now, a lot of it was in bad faith. A lot of it was kind of ridiculous. But, okay, there was a compromise, and some of the best parts of that legislation still exist. You cannot deny someone with pre-existing conditions. Now, Trump just recently spoke about dropping the price on insulin, even though Biden already did that. But he wants to keep that locked in. That's a good idea he's got. If he wants to do it for other medicines, I'd be on board for that. I don't think he does, though. And I'm into it. That's a conservative idea I can get around, even though it's originally a liberal idea. But hey. Ideas, man. If a guy thinks he can get it done, I'm not going to fight him on it. Just try to get it done, even though he said he would release the JFK files and the Epstein files and never released any of them because he's probably in one of them. Want to guess which one? But Affordable Care Act. We fought for years to get that. And we got it in some way, shape, or form. But this is the arguments we've been having since the 1700s. And I honestly think this push and pull mechanism isn't new. It's actually an old idea that we actually spoke about in this podcast on Valentine's Day, if you can believe it. We were speaking about the anxiety between men and women and what their anxieties are. And oddly enough, it kind of adds up to the demographics of this election. So we're going to play that clip now, take you down a little bit of memory lane for Valentine's Day. It comes down to the two anxieties I think men and women have. You know, men, I think, have an anxiety of, let's not change anything. Everything's going fine as it is. There's no need to change anything. Women have a different kind of anxiety. Their anxiety is things could always be better. This is why you get into those situations where, like, your girl will tell you to move something so she can see how it looks somewhere else. And you know damn well it's going back to the original place. It's going back to the original place. It's not going anywhere. It's going right back. You're doing it for the sake of doing it. And it drives a man crazy. But that's her anxiety playing out. What if this looks better over there and I'm missing out on that opportunity for us to be the best, our living space to be the best it can be? Men trying to maintain, women trying to upgrade. We have to meet in the middle. So when she does tell you to move shit, move the goddamn thing. Be a good man and move it. Even if it means you gotta move it back at the end, who cares? You've satisfied a level of anxiety. Now she knows she has an answer. She will move on with her day. And you can go back to whatever you were doing. I think men and women aren't that complicated. There's just key things you gotta give a little bit. Right? Well, that dumb song, who wrote that shit? Don't even look it up. I don't give a damn. But give a little bit, man. Give a little bit of your love to the other person if you want. Then I could be wrong. Look how many of those millionaire, billionaire marriages go on for years and it's all built on money and promises of company stock and the summer palace. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know shit. And that's what it comes down to. Can we move this bookshelf? Will anyone want to move the bookshelf to see how it looks somewhere else? And that's something I've always wondered about our country. Like, why is it impossible for both political parties to admit, hey, someone's got a better idea? Like when we moved the bookshelf, hey, liberals had a point. Moving that bookshelf over there was pretty good. Or we moved the bookshelf, it looks like shit, we gotta move it back. This immigration crisis we have right now, I'm into immigrants. I've got friends that are immigrants. This country was built by immigrants and founded by immigrants. But there needs to be a little of accountability. We can't have them running around willy-nilly, not knowing what they're up to. There's massive migrant crime. We can't deny that. But one thing we can do is not treat them like second-class citizens, is find out who are the hardworking ones and actually work with them a bit. Because you'll be surprised by this. A lot of undocumented people pay into Social Security and pay taxes. I know, shocking, right? They don't just come here for a free ride and get free shit. Once they start working, they're paying into the system. Though undocumented, they're working on the process of getting documented. They're still paying into the system. And does that not make them American? They're already getting robbed by the government like the rest of us are. Sounds American to me. You don't need a document to tell them that. The robbery makes it legitimate. But that's the game. Can we as liberals admit, hey, we all like immigrants here. We're all down with the melting pot. Let's just be a little secure with the border. Let's just kind of be honest and go, hey, we really need a better way of letting people in here, who's getting let in here, what the timetable is on making them citizens and doing these background checks. There needs to be something tighter put together, and that's not a bad thing to say. It's not. It's the compromise. I have a utopian idea where I want, more and more immigrants to be in this country, to make America the most diverse country it possibly be. So we have the best ideas, the best food. Because I'm telling you right now, European cuisine ain't got shit on us, bro. We've got tacos, we've got quesadillas, we've got Caribbean food. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. British food is bullshit. All right? We rule. That's 100% facts. Okay? And we're only going to keep ruling the culinary world if we bring more people in here. There's a reason why Gordon Ramsay keeps coming back to America. He ain't trying to fuck with them out there. We're the better people. He knows it. Is attacking European cuisine considered racist? It shouldn't be. It should be a God's given right to make fun of European cuisine. Except for Italian. Those guys nailed it. I never had French cuisine. Doesn't look appetizing. The Nordics don't necessarily look appetizing either. But the Italians. Maybe it's because the Italians know how to dress it up because they're artists. So they really, put a nice touch on it. Nice colors. Nice presentation. Could be wrong. But in this world where it's all facts don't care about your feelings, the reason why we're unable to work with each other on these issues is because people are in their feelings. And the feelings comes from the messaging your politicians throw at you. Ronald Reagan's Morning in America. Who was that for? The steel worker? The farmer? All these other people who live in the center of the country. You think the kid in the projects had a morning in America? You think the Puerto Rican going to Bushwick projects where crack was running rampant? You think he had a morning in America? You think that Reaganomics trickled down to him so he could have a morning in America? No, it didn't. I was waking up in terrible mornings in America. It was like a New Jack City out there. But what does Morning in America tell you? We're going back to a better time. Isn't things great? Isn't this a utopia? Isn't it heavenly? Isn't America the greatest dance ever fucking existed? Now, one thing I do like the Founding Fathers is that they always said that we're looking for a more perfect union. One thing I like about Thomas Jefferson is that he said revolutions are as natural to the republic or as storms are to the natural world. So even he knew this was never going to be great. We're always going to be pretty good. America's going to be pretty all right. That's an okay thing to work with, I think. Why can't America just be pretty all right? Vince Lombardi said it. My brother taught me this when he was in 5th grade. He's a big sports fan and very smart. You cannot achieve perfection, but in chasing it, you will get excellence. That's America in a nutshell. This place will never be perfect. The trains will never run on time. There'll always be some dirt on the fucking corner of the street. Someone didn't throw out the garbage. Someone smells funny. That's America. I'm getting fucked by my job. I'm not getting paid enough. My rent went up. That's America. But I can see a doctor who can get a kidney stone out of my body. That's the way it should go. My financial life is terrible, but my health might be all right. You don't agree, but see, Bobby's not with me on any of this. He's just looking at me blankly like, what is this picture of America you're painting? A better America. A lot better than what people realize. But Ronald Reagan wanted to dismiss all the disparities within economic class and just went, hey, we're America, baby. Isn't it great? Isn't it fun? Join the fantasy. Play the role of America. Because he was an actor, so he's playing the role. He wanted you to play the role. Pretend you're a great American. Pretend we live in a great society. Then you got guys like Barack Obama with Yes We Can, which was a very hopeful message about diversity and inclusion and what could be for America, which is a bit more in line with the founding fathers. But Yes We Can became Maybe We Can sometimes. Like, he got gay marriage passed, but we still didn't leave Guantanamo Bay. So we were still warlords, but the gays could get married, and that was important. Okay, like I said, the long game. One of them had to win. That one won. God bless. If only we could have just stopped bombing people with drones. Which, side note, I now own a drone, but I'm not bombing people with it. I actually caught some weird footage with that drone. That's coming up in a future episode. An investigation. But I now know what it is to fly a drone, so I don't know. Maybe I kind of understand what it is to be behind one and realize how simple it is to assassinate an enemy. It's actually quite simple. If you buy the DJI Neo, it's a really small one, and you get the RCN3 controller, and then you just fly it around. It's actually really easy to fly. I actually picked up in a few days, and like I've already been using the 4K camera, so I kind of get the easy peasiness of it all. But Yes We Can was a hopeful message, but how much did he get accomplished? It's questionable, right? But people believed in that message, and they voted for him on that message twice. Reagan, Morning in America, they believed in that message, and they voted for him. And when he got shot, they really fucking supported him. But that's the game. In all of these kind of conversations we've been having tonight, where things seem logical and more conversational, they got turned to buzzwords. And it's the buzzwords that end up carrying far more precedence and power than the actual policies. And this is a problem because we're not doing the work. Like, back in the day, policies meant shit and people knew what they were. But now no one knows shit because everyone's too stressed out from work and the economy. And everyone who does explain things to you explains it half-assed like I do. We're podcasters. We're supposed to explain things half-assed. If you want to fucking go watch a YouTube channel on fucking the new CNN's got a YouTube channel. Go watch Breaking Points. They break things down very well. But that's the game now. I keep saying it's the game now. I don't like that I keep saying it, but it is the game. No one knows what's actually going on because we get caught up in Make America Great Again. We won't go back. Yes, we can. Morning in America. And they're appealing to feelings that we have. And whatever the policy is no longer matters because it makes us feel good. And deep down, people just want to feel good. It's like that part in Monsters Ball with Halle Berry. Make me feel good. Like, that's really what it is. We all want to feel good. We all want to be orgasming as Americans. Who doesn't want an American orgasm? I wonder if we do have the best lovers in the world. Is there a challenge? I wonder if, we have to check how many American porn stars have won awards. If they're mostly American, we're on the up. We're on the up. But this is I think what's become so, I feel, important now to us. The buzzwords, like the Green New Deal is having a hard time now. The Green New Deal is very simple. We gotta go more green. The climate is changing. Now, do I think the climate has always changed through human history? Yes, it did. Do I think right now it's changing because of us? Yes. Two things can be right. Now, the buzzwords of killing coal wasn't a great idea because you didn't explain the policy. We're going to get rid of coal to give you new jobs in solar and wind and nuclear. Had you said that, instead of killing coal, you wouldn't have given coal miners a cause for pause. But, of course, we get overzealous. Hillary Clinton gets overzealous and just says shit because she wants to appeal to a crowd. She wants the cheers. But no one ever explained a really good policy that was, we're going to take the money that we're investing in there and pay you while you're training to get these new jobs. That, to me, was a great middle ground for conservatives and liberals. Because not only are we saying, hey, we believe in business, so we're going to invest in business, but the liberal part is we're going to take those jobs and transfer those jobs and what is a safety net and pay them to get those new jobs and train for those new jobs. That was a great middle ground. But it got lost in AOC being the one to bring it to the forefront. And it's because she's hot. Let's be honest. Conservatives hate that girl because she's hot. And she says cool shit that all the young kids like. But it's really because, and I've seen it, I've seen dudes I know who are conservatives have a real crush on this woman because they think they can change her. And that's a real man thing. All men think they can change the girl who's gone quote unquote wild in their opinion. But they ain't changing no AOC. She's a bright woman. I don't agree with everything she says, but she's got a point, a Green New Deal. So in the end, what are we talking about? It's 2024, and now it seems to be we're fighting for the American identity, which conservatives have always seemed to have a lock on. They're always the most pro-American, pro-nationalist, pro-fucking stars and stripes you can possibly be. They would fuck Captain America if it wasn't gay, but that's just how they feel. That's what I always feel. I always feel like conservatives are just right on the cusp of being gay for Captain America and then don't go forward with it. And that's no way to live. If you're gay, be gay. Being gay is kind of cool. But they do have a point. We do need American identity. Through having that identity, we can push forward. We look at each other as citizens. We look at each other as fellow homies in a lifelong pursuit or eternal battle with the elements, the world we live in, other countries. We have to band together and see ourselves as Americans. But that also doesn't mean that I can't be Puerto Rican American, where I have to homogenize myself to the American idea. They let the Quakers in back in the day. That must mean I could bring some Santeria to the goddamn Chamber of Congress if I wanted to. That's my political freedom. But yet, you have a conservative party that says it's the enemy within, liberals, and they gotta get rid of them. Does that sound conservative to you? Does that sound American to you? Looking at your own Americans as as the enemy. Liberals kind of got caught up in this too with the word fascist a bit. Now, do I think he's a fascist, Trump? I don't know. I have to do more research on that. A lot of people keep saying he is. A lot of people that used to work for him keep saying he is, so there might be a thing to it. But what I'm highly aware of is that we cannot view each other as enemies, as we're just people who share a different philosophy. Now, some people have a wild philosophy, Christian nationalist philosophy. Michael Knowles wants to go back to fucking old school ancient Christianity. Don't know if I'm down with that, but he's kind of more into a theocracy kind of idea. That's kind of a problem too. But this is where we are. Conservatives right now are telling you they got to stop abortion, we got to stop immigration, we got to stop things. They're not creating a future, they're just stopping things from happening. Where Kamala, God bless her, is very loosey-goosey with the details, but at least is promising some kind of future. How we'll get there, we don't know, but it's a future, and it sounds like a nice one. But I think at the end of the day, we should all just be honest with who we're voting for and why we're voting for them. And I would respect far more people if they were just honest about it and would just say, hey, I'm a little weirded out by trans people. Okay, so you're going to vote Trump? Okay, gotcha. You're worried about women in sports? I gotcha. 100% agree. There's something to think about there, but I don't think outlawing transgendered people is the way to go. I think there are people and let's try to understand them, but all right. I get it. I don't think mass deportations is the answer either, because who's going to fund that? Us. That's going to be a lot of money wasted because there's going to come right back. Tariffs don't work because we will be paying the tariffs really when they upcharge all the items that come in internationally. But hey, you're concerned and you will forego all these things just to feel better. And fine, maybe you don't want to talk about race anymore. Maybe you're annoyed by the fact that America was racist at one point. We can't get past it, even though it's still systemically built into most things in the country. Hey, I'm tired of it too. You think I'm not tired of it? All right, I'm experiencing it and I'm tired of it. So I can only imagine what the average white Trump voter feels having to talk about it. Now imagine me experiencing it. So we're on the same page here. But I do feel that in a lot of these cases, I think people are voting with their feelings. They're not voting with the actual ideas at play. And I have lost respect for a lot of people in that regard. I do look at people a bit differently. I never was that person with politics. I never really took it as seriously as many do. I make jokes about it. I make fun of both sides. That's always been my thing. But this particular election, I wouldn't say I've taken a side. I lean aside, left. But I am highly aware of the things at play here. And I don't think the conservative route is the right route right now. I think we can definitely use that in Congress, use that in the Senate, and have them push back on some of our ideas to find the fiscal realities. But I don't know if we need it in the big chair, because the big chair sets the tone. And I don't know if going backward is the tone we want to set for the rest of the 2020s. I think this is an advantageous time with technology on the rise, with new explorations in health coming around every day, new cures. Now is the time to have a bit more of a progressive outlook on things and a more hopeful outlook, as opposed to the law and order doom and gloom of the MAGA. So that's my piece. I won't tell you who to vote for. Vote where the fuck you want. But this is what we had to say on the election. Me and Bobby thought about this for a bit. We were wondering if we would even talk about it, because we've talked about it in previous episodes, but we never really got to this place with it. And we decided, why not? Fuck it. Can't change anything, really. We just said our piece, and hopefully it all works out, depending on who wins. It'd be nice if it all worked out. I'm rooting for peace. How about that? I'm rooting for just good old peace. Good old everything works out and, nothing crazy happens, like a raid on the Capitol or burning of ballot boxes. That's been happening recently. Conservative people are doing that. It's getting a little weird out there. No people threatening to kill people for not voting however they want them to. Saw a couple of that on Twitter recently. Interesting. No calling people the enemy within, because that's a little fucking weird, isn't it? Sounds a little Nazi-ish. Just hoping there's some kind of unity that could happen. But then again, this could be the last election special. And the truth is, I think we all know how this one is going to end.